The morning light spilled across Samuel Jefferson's small garden, warm and gentle, coaxing the dew from the roses he had tended for decades. His hands, gnarled yet steady, brushed against the petals as if greeting old friends, the scent of earth and bloom filling the crisp dawn air. Samuel, or Sam as his neighbors called him, hummed an old jazz tune under his breath, a ritual he had maintained since his wife's passing 10 years earlier. The garden was his sanctuary, a quiet rebellion against a world that had not always been kind. Beyond the fence, the town stirred. Children on their way to school, delivery trucks rattling along Main Street. But Sam's corner of the world remained untouchable, ordered, serene. He straightened, squinting at the sun glinting off the metals in his window, each one a memory, a story, a testament to sacrifice. World War II, Korea, civil rights marches. His life had been lived in the service of others, often quietly, without recognition. Yet today, Sam felt a rare anticipation. He adjusted his tie in the mirror, a simple act of pride before heading to the historic Hilton Hotel for a charity luncheon he had supported for years. As he walked down the brick-lined street, he exchanged nods with neighbors, his gentle humor evident in a wink here, a quiet joke there. Jordan Lewis, a young reporter from the local paper, waved from across the street. "Morning, Mr. Jefferson," she called. Sam tipped his hat, smiling. In that simple gesture, there was dignity, history, and a warmth that had earned him the respect of everyone who truly knew him. The Hilton Hotel rose like a gilded monument at the end of Main Street, polished marble and crystal chandeliers reflecting a town's old-money pride. Inside, the lobby buzzed with quiet civility, men in pressed suits, women in pearls and silk. Sam approached the hostess desk, presenting his reservation for the luncheon. The woman glanced at the name and frowned briefly, her eyes flicking toward the manager, Bradley Nash, who stood nearby. Bradley's jaw tightened as he studied Sam, as though assessing whether he belonged. "Right this way," he said, his tone polite but clipped, ushering Sam toward a side room. Subtle signals of exclusion were everywhere. Guests leaned slightly away, murmuring under their breath. The waiter's hands trembled as he offered the menu, avoiding Sam's eyes. Sam's posture remained unshaken, his steps measured, his voice steady. Yet beneath the calm, there was an unspoken tension, a reminder that the veneer of civility could fracture at the first sign of discomfort. Bradley lingered, his fingers tapping the edge of the registration book, glances sharp and assessing. Sam could sense the calculation, the quiet decision that he might not belong in a space reserved for the town's elite. And in that instant, he recognized the fight he had been trained for, not with weapons, but with patience, precision, and principle. The moment crystallized in the dining hall, under the glittering chandeliers and the soft murmur of polite conversation. Sam approached his table, confirmed weeks in advance, only to be met with Bradley's polite but firm objection. "I'm afraid this table has been reserved for others," he said, a practiced neutrality hiding disdain. The words hung in the air like smoke, and the guests shifted uncomfortably, some averting their eyes, others exchanging nervous glances. Sam's hands remained folded behind his back. "I confirmed this reservation last month," he said, his voice low but unwavering. "I am entitled to sit." He did not raise his voice, did not flinch under the scrutiny. Yet the manager insisted, his tone laced with authority, and some of the guests began to smirk or whisper. The scene was humiliating, public, and deliberate, a quiet exercise of power intended to shame. Jordan, seated at the edge of the room, began recording discreetly, knowing that the story unfolding was larger than a single insult. Sam's restraint became a form of resistance. He did not shout, did not lash out. Instead, he straightened, squared his shoulders, and let the injustice speak for itself. Bradley's insistence and the room's quiet complicity marked the beginning of a larger reckoning, one that would not rely on anger, but on clarity, evidence, and moral authority. Sam exhaled slowly, letting the tension gather and settle. "With all due respect," he said, his voice measured, "I served in the U.S. Army during World War II. I've been stationed on battlefields across Europe, planning operations that required patience, strategy, and unwavering focus. I've never been asked to leave a place where I belong, but I will not start now. The room paused. Eyes widened. Conversations stuttered into silence. The weight of his service, of decades dedicated to principle, authority, and dignity, shifted the balance. Bradley's posture stiffened, the first crack in his armor of entitlement. The hotel owner, drawn by the murmurs, arrived just as Sam concluded, taking in the scene. The manager's unease, the stunned guests, and Sam's calm, resolute gaze. Without hesitation, he fired Bradley on the spot, his decision immediate, unambiguous. The power dynamics had shifted, not through force, but through the quiet, commanding presence of a man who had earned respect through action, history, and moral certainty. By evening, Jordan's footage was circulating online. Sam's composure, Bradley's dismissal, and the owner's decisive intervention went viral, drawing national attention. Interviews followed, with fellow veterans, civil rights advocates, and townspeople offering support. He didn't yell, he didn't threaten, Jordan wrote. He reminded us all what true courage looks like. Social media brimmed with commentary, some supportive, some vitriolic, but the tide was unmistakable. Allies emerged, local activists, journalists from regional outlets, even politicians seeking to align with justice. Sam, accustomed to quiet life, found himself at the center of attention, yet he remained composed. Threats were sent, anonymous warnings whispered, but he responded not with fear, but with meticulous planning. His story had become a mirror reflecting systemic biases, and the town, for better or worse, was watching. Sam's next move was deliberate. With the aid of a young attorney and a veteran-led advocacy group, he filed a civil rights complaint against the hotel and its management. Every email, receipt, and recorded interaction was cataloged. The strategy was simple: combine law, truth, and undeniable evidence to ensure accountability. He met privately with hotel staff to discuss training, subtle but persistent pressure to implement systemic change rather than mere apologies. He was careful, tactical, his experience in strategic planning guiding each step. There was no need for aggression. The weight of evidence and public scrutiny sufficed. The legal filings were precise, backed by documented history, and the case began to gain momentum, attracting reporters who had followed the viral footage. Weeks later, a town hall meeting convened, the largest the Hilton had hosted in decades. Sam spoke first, his calm voice cutting through the murmurs. Bradley Nash attempted a belated apology, but Sam's recounting of the event, with every recorded detail and witness account, left the room silent. The hotel owner, seated at the side, nodded in recognition of both the injustice and Sam's dignified handling of it. Tensions rippled through the room as Sam articulated the broader implications: systemic exclusion, the subtle racism that lingered in polite society, and the necessity of public accountability. Cameras rolled, journalists scribbled, and for the first time in a long while, the town confronted its own reflection. Power had been challenged not by anger, but by strategy, patience, and moral authority. In the quiet aftermath, Sam walked home under the amber glow of streetlights. Neighbors waved, children called out greetings, and there was an unmistakable sense that something had shifted. The Hilton implemented comprehensive diversity training, and the local school district began workshops on civil rights. Sam returned to his garden, the roses untouched, the earth fragrant with possibility. He reflected on what had been lost, what had been gained, and what would endure. Dignity reclaimed, justice measured, and a town reminded that courage was not in loud defiance, but in steadfast integrity. He tended the blooms with tender hands, the evening wind rustling leaves like applause. And as the stars emerged, he whispered to himself, a quiet promise to the next generation. Dignity is claimed not with anger, but with patience, courage, and a refusal to be silenced. If you want, I can also create a cinematic beat sheet with shot composition, camera movements, and pacing notes for this narrative, essentially turning it into a ready-to-film screenplay treatment.